Hello HIC students, welcome to another week of Math at Home. This is our 7th video and today we're gonna be dividing our lesson into 3 sections. We're gonna have our 6th graders learn how to multiply and divide decimal numbers. We're gonna have our 7th graders learn about percent of numbers, and our 8th graders will be exploring angles inside of parallel lines. So let's get started. For our 6th graders, the objective is for us to learn how to multiply and divide positive rational numbers. In this case, today we are going to be specific about decimals. And in order for us to start, we're going to explore the following problem. Let's say that we have Louis over here that wants to buy a skateboard. And this skateboard is $48.80. Further, I tell you that he has actually saved a quarter of this amount. My question for you is, how much has Louis saved? And in order for us to answer that question, we need to know how to multiply decimals. So let's get started.
We'll start by multiplying our two numbers. So I'm going to multiply the $48.80 times the quarter that he has saved, which is 0.25. And it's very important that we know that when we're multiplying decimals, we are multiplying as if there is no decimal. Okay, the only thing that I want you guys to do is just put on a parenthesis how many decimals do you have on one number and how many decimals you have on the other, because this is gonna total the amount of decimals that we are going to add at the end of our answer. So let's start. So 5 times 0 is gonna be 0, 5 times 8 is gonna be 40, I carry 4, 5 times 8 is 40, and 4 is 44, I carry another 4, 5 times 4 is 20, and 4 is 24. So I'm gonna add a 0, and now I start multiplying the 2. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 8 16, and I carry 1. 2 times 8 16, and 1 is 17, I still carry 1, and then 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 is 9. And then remember that any number times 0 is just 0, so I'm just gonna add the zeros over here. Okay, so now we just have to add, and this is gonna be 0 0, that's 10, I carry 1, that's gonna be 12, and I carry another 1, and then that's gonna be 12. Okay, and now this is why this addition over here is important, because I have to count 4 spaces in order for me to be able to find the correct answer. So I'm gonna go from here 1 space, 2, 3, and my decimal is going to be right here. So when they ask me how much money has he saved, I can say that he saved $12.20, and that's gonna be the answer for this problem. And now we're gonna plot some common decimals and fraction. We are gonna have a number line that goes from -1 to +1, and you are going to calculate what are these common decimals and fractions. Your job is going to be to fill up the yellow rectangles, and you're gonna have just a few seconds. Let's start working. So now we have the answers, and for the first ones, negative 0.75 should be negative 3/4. That's its equivalent fraction. Negative 0.5, it will be negative 1/2. If we have negative 1/3, the equivalent decimal is going to be negative 0.33, and negative 1/4 is going to be the same as negative 0.25. Now we go to the positive side, and 0.2 is going to be the same as 1/5. 0.25 is going to be the same as 1/4. 1/2 is going to be the same as 0.5, and 3/4 is going to be the same as 0.75. And these are some common decimal fractions that you can memorize in order to complete the next couple of problems. Let's explore the following situation, and we're gonna use the strategy cubes in order to facilitate our answer. So we have Dana is saving up to buy a camera that costs, first keyword, $65.60. She has already saved, that's another keyword, 3/4 of the amount, or 7/75 of the amount. How much? So this is going to be my question, so I'm just going to put a box. How much has she saved? So in order for us to solve this problem, the only operation that we have to do is multiplication. So I'm going to put the total cost, which is $65.60, and I'm going to multiply it times 0.75. And remember, in order to multiply decimals, the only thing that I have to do is make sure that I know how many decimals there are and add it at the end of our answer. So I know that on the top number I have 2 decimals, and on the bottom number I have another 2 decimals. So that means that on my answer I am going to have a total of 4 decimals. So let's see. I'm going to start. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. I carry 3. 5 times 5 25, and 3 is 28. I carry 2. 5 times 6 is 30, and 2 is 32. I'm going to start with the 7. Remember, put a 0 there. And then start 7 times 0, 0. 7 times 6 is 42, and I carry 4. 7 times 5 is 35, and 4, 39, and now I carry 3. And 7 times 6 again is 42, and 3 is going to be 45. And we know that any number times 0 is just going to be 0, so I'm just going to put 4 zeros over here. Okay, so now I just have to add it, and this is going to be 0, 0, 8 plus 2 is 10, and I carry 1. That's 10 and 2 is 12, and I carry 1. That's going to be 4 and 5, 9, and then this is going to be 4. And now I just have to count the decimal spaces, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So she has saved $49.20. And that's the answer for our problem. So we're going to start looking at the division of decimals, and we are going to model this division. So we're going to draw a number tile that has 100 squares. Since it has 100 squares, this represents a unit, and we're going to have, based on the number that I have on top, I have 6 units. And then I'm going to represent the 3900th as only 39 yellow squares out of the total 100. So that's going to be representing my decimals. And we are going to divide it into 3 equal sections. Well, if we look at the whole numbers, it's very easy to see that if I divide this into 3 sections, each section is going to be equal to 2 whole units. And now my job is to divide the decimals into 3 equal sections, which will give me 1300th on the decimal side. That means that my division is going to be equal to 2.1300th, and that's the result of the division of decimals. We are going to work a division of decimals with numbers, and in order for us to be able to complete this division, we have to make sure that the divisor, which is this number on the right side, is a whole number. Okay, so in order for us to be able to complete the division, we have to make sure that this number is a whole number. So in order for us to do that, we can see that there is only one decimal here, and in order for us to be able to make it a whole number, we just have to multiply times 10. So if we multiply times 10 on one side of the division, we have to multiply times 10 on the other side. So that means that this decimal point moves as well as this decimal point. So now we're gonna rewrite the division as 32.5, and that is gonna be divided by 5. And now we can go ahead and complete our division, and I'm gonna use the box strategy. So in order for us to draw the box, I'm just gonna draw the 3 spaces. This is gonna be the number 3, the number 2. I'm gonna put the decimal right here, and then I'm gonna put the number 5, and outside is gonna be the divisor, the number 5 by itself. So how many times does 5 fit inside of 3? That's 0. If I subtract 0, that's gonna be 3, and now I have the number 32. How many times does 5 fit inside of 32? That's 6 times. That's equal to 30. That's a remainder of 2, and now I'm gonna have 25. How many times does 5 fit inside of 25? That's exactly 5. And like that, I just close my division, and that means that my answer is going to be 6.5. This is gonna be the best strategy to divide decimals. And now we're gonna have the following example, and we're gonna be using cubes in order to start solving the problem. So we have 8 friends. That's my first important number. Purchase various supplies for a trip and agreed to share the total cost. They spend a total of $357.84. The question reads, how much does each friend owe? So now you're gonna have a multiple choice, and you're gonna have a few seconds to be able to solve this problem. Let's start. Okay, so now that you work the problem out, I'm just gonna show you the way that I work this problem out. The good news is that the divisor right here is a whole number already. So I just have to draw my box with 5 spaces for the number 357. I'm gonna draw 3, 5, 7, decimal point, and I'm gonna put 84 over here, and outside I'm gonna multiply times 8. So I start. How many times does 8 fit inside of 3? That's 0, and that's gonna be 3. So I'm gonna get 35. How many times does 8 fit inside of 35? That's 4, which is equal to 32, and the subtraction is gonna be 3, and now I have 37. How many times does 8 fit inside of 37? That's also 4, and that's equal to 32 again. I subtracted it and it's gonna be equal to 5, and now I have 58. How many times does 8 fit inside of 58? And that is gonna be 7. 7 times 8 is gonna be 56, and that's a remainder of 2, and now I have 24. And how many times does 8 fit inside of 24? That is equal to 3, and that's exactly 24. So I close my division, and my answer for this division is 44.73. So each person owes $44.73.
So for our sixth graders, the learning outcome today was to learn how to multiply decimals times other decimal numbers and times fractions. We also learned how to get common fractions and how to calculate its equivalent decimals. We also learn how to divide decimals and how to model this division, and we also learn how to use the cube strategy in order to solve our problems. So now let's get to our 7th grade section. For our 7th graders, the objective is to solve problems that involve ratios, rates, and percents. So we're gonna start with the following problem. Let's say that you wanna buy a pair of shoes that cost you $120. And then when you go to the register, you notice that the tax is actually 8%. My question for you is, how much is your total purchase? And in order for us to be able to solve these type of problems, you need to know how to work multiplication and division of percents. Let's get started.
And now remember that we are looking at the word percent, and percent, what it means is a number out of 100. So let's say that we have, this is just an example, 10%. I can write it as a fraction, and I'm just going to put this 100 on the bottom. So it's going to read 10 over 100. And I can go further, and I can change this fraction to a decimal, right? Once I divide 10 divided by 100, it's going to give me 0.10. Now, if you want to have a rule, you can always change the decimal point of your percent number and move it 2 times to the left side. And as you can see, it's going to give you the same result. So let's see how this works. Let's say that I have 1%, and I know that if I change it to a decimal, then my decimal is going to be 0.01, or just 1 over 100. Then I have 25%, and if I move the decimal 2 times, that's going to give me 0.25, or just 25 out of 100. And then the last example is 8%, which is equal to 0.08, or just 8 over 100. And that is the number that we're going to use for our problem. So now we're going to solve this problem by modeling the use of percent. So we're going to use a bar model to represent the $120 of the cost. And basically each rectangle that you see is going to represent 10% of the number. And then we know that the tax is equal to 8%. And now we know that this is the same as 0.08. And basically, in order for us to find out the total cost, we just have to get the 120, and at the end we are going to add the 8% in order for us to find the total price. So in order for us to get to what 8% of 120 is, we just need to multiply. And remember that when you're multiplying a whole number and a decimal, the only thing that you have to do is count how many decimals you have in this multiplication. In this case, you only have 2 decimal places. Everything else from now on, we're going to multiply as if there is no decimal. We're going to start 8 times 0 will be 0, 8 times 2 16, I carry 1, 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is going to be 9, and then everything times 0 is going to be 0. My final step is going to be to add everything, and we're going to have this number right here. And remember, we said that there is 2 decimal places, so I just have to move my decimal point twice to the left, and now I know that the tax on $120 is equal to 9.6, and that means that my final cost is $129.60.
Now let's look at the following problem. We have Emily wants to buy a shirt and the cost is $20. And we have a tax rate of 5%. The question reads, what is the total cost for this shirt? You're gonna have several options and just a few seconds in order for you to get the correct answer. Let's get to work.
So now that you had some time to work on this problem, remember the first thing I have to do is convert this 5% into its decimal form, and that's going to be equal to 0.05. And now I can use my multiplication strategy to find how much is the tax. So I'm going to multiply 20 times 0.05, and remember I'm gonna count how many decimals are there, and then I am gonna put it at the end so I can just add it to the answer. So I'm gonna start 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 2 is 10. I'm gonna add a 0 and then 2 zeros because from now on everything is times 0. Now I'm gonna add, and this is 0, 0, 1, and any 0 to the left does not count. And then we have 2 spaces. That's gonna be equal to $1. So now if the tax is $1, remember they're asking for the total cost. So that means that I have to add the cost of the shirt, that is 20, plus the tax, which is 1. And now we can see that the answer is going to be $21. Let's explore a different problem. And now we have the Martinez family goes out to a restaurant and the price of the meal is $70. The sales tax is 10% and they want to leave a tip of 20%. What is the total cost of the dinner? And this is going to be the question that I have to answer. So as we can see, now we have multiple percents and we're gonna learn how to work it out. So we know that we have to get 10% of 70, and that just means that I have to multiply 0.10 times 70. And if I multiply that, that's gonna be equal to $7. I'm gonna do the same with the 20% tip. So 20% of 70 just means that I have to multiply 0.20 times 70, and that's gonna be equal to 14. And now in order for me to get my total cost, I have to add all of my expenses. So the dinner costs 70. I'm gonna leave a tip of $14 and I'm gonna pay taxes equal to 7. And remember, based on my associative property of addition, I can just start with any numbers and the result is gonna be the same. That means that I can start by adding 70 and 14, that is gonna give me 84, and then I can add 7, which will give me a total of 91, and this is gonna be the final price of the meal.
And now we're gonna have the same problem, but we now have the Martinez family getting out a coupon. And they have a coupon for 30% off the price of the dinner. So now, in order for us to be able to solve this, I'm just gonna write 30 over 100 times the $70 that the meal costs. In order for us to solve this multiplication, we learned last week that we can just multiply the numerators and it's gonna give us 2,100 divided by 100. Once I do this division, my result is gonna be $21. So now I know that the discount that they will receive will total 21. My new expression is gonna be like this. The cost of the dinner is still 70. And then I'm gonna subtract the 21 that they get as a discount. Then I'm gonna add the tax, and then I'm gonna add the tip that they're gonna leave. And now we see that the new total is 70. So with a coupon of 30%, the total price of the dinner is $70. So now we got to the end of our 7th grade section. Today we learn how to change numbers that are written in percent to fraction, and then how to change them from fraction to decimal. We also learn how to calculate sales tax and how to calculate discounts when they are given in percents. And also we learn how to calculate the total cost of items when you are adding any type of percent to it. So now we are ready to move on to our 8th grade section.
So now we got to our 8th grade section, and we are going to use informal arguments to establish facts about the angles created when parallel lines are cut by a transversal. So let's start with this image. We have a straight line that is cut by another line, and this white color line is called the transversal because it's the one that cuts our straight line. And as you can see, when this happens, it forms 4 different angles. Our first vocabulary word that we're gonna explore for this section is going to be vertical angles. And these are represented by the numbers that have the same color. That means that the 1 and 3 and the angle 2 and 4 are vertical angles. So what does that mean that they are vertical? Let's explore this with an example. Let's say that the angle number 3 is equal to 65 degrees. Well, let's say that I cut that angle and I paste it on the vertical angle, which is the angle 1. As you can see, it fits perfectly. And this means that both angles are the same. In math, we use a vocabulary word that is congruent. And when we say that both angles are congruent, it just means that they are the same. So vertical angles are congruent because they are exactly the same. So now let's say that I have these 4 angles, and I just give you angle number 1, which is equal to 80. And now I'm asking you, what will be the measure of angle number 2? Well, this leads to our new vocabulary words that we are going to review today. So as we can see on this image, these two angles form a straight angle, and that just means that if you add them together, it looks as a line. And remember from previous grades that a straight angle is always equal to 180 degrees. So this means that I can use an property for supplementary angles that says that when you add two angles, they are equal to 180. So I'm going to write angle 1 plus the angle number 2, they're equal to 180. And now I can just substitute for angle 1 because I know that is equal to 80. And in order for me to be able to find angle 2, I just have to subtract 80 from 180, and then I'll know that angle 2 is equal to 100. And that's how we solve these type of problems. So now we have the transversal, and we are going to draw another line, and we're gonna say that these two yellow lines are parallel to each other, and this is just meaning that these two yellow lines will never touch each other. So as we can realize, now there is 4 new angles that are created on the new yellow line, and these angles are gonna be corresponding to the first 4 angles. This is what I mean. Let's say that angle number 1 is equal to 55 degrees. Then that means that angle number 5 is a corresponding angle, and that means that they are congruent. So this can be further explained with angle number 3 being also 55, and that meaning that its corresponding angle number 7, is also going to be 55. So we can say that angle number 1 is congruent to angle number 5, angle number 3 congruent to angle number 7, angle number 2 will be congruent with angle number 6, and angle 4 and angle 8 are also going to be congruent because they are corresponding angles. Now let's explore what we just learned and see how we can use it in this problem. So it says that we have an angle that is equal to 6x and another angle that is equal to 3x. And they want us to find the measure of each angle. So as we know from our previous learning, these two angles right here are actually supplementary angles, because remember that this angle right here is also 6x, and since this is a corresponding angle to this one over here, then that means that this is also 6x. And as we can see, these two form a straight angle, which means that 6x plus 3x is going to be equal to 180 degrees. And now I can solve this two-step equation in order for me to be able to find the value of x. So 6 plus 3 is going to be 9, so I have 9x is equal to 180, and now the last step will be to divide by 9 each side. So I know that the variable is going to be equal to 20. And now in order for me to find the measure of each angle, I just have to solve each of the expressions. So the first one is angle ABC. Angle ABC is equal to 6x. That's going to be the same as 6 times 20, which is equal to 120 degrees. So this one right here is 120 degrees. And then the BCD is equal to 3x, or 3 times 20, which is equal to 60. So 3x is equal to 60 degrees, and that is the answer for this problem.
Now we get to solve some problems. And the question reads, how much is angle EDF? And it's gonna be this angle that is given by the letter X. I'm gonna give you some options, and you guys are gonna have a few seconds to get the correct answer. So let's get to work.
The question says how much is angle EDF, and it's gonna be this angle that is formed right here between these lines, and we see that the angle is represented by the letter X, and the only thing that they give us is this angle over here that we know that is equal to 50. Well, we have to use the things that we learned before in order to be able to solve this. We know that this angle right here is corresponding to this one, so that means that this is also 50 degrees, and we can see that these two right here form a straight angle, so I can use the expression 50 plus x is gonna be equal to 180 degrees, and I can just, this is just a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 50 from each side, subtract 50 from the left, subtract 50 from the right, and this is telling me that x is gonna be equal to 130 degrees, and that's the answer for this problem.
The next problem says, what is the measure of angle ACB? And it's gonna be this angle over here that is given by the expression 2x. You're gonna have a couple of seconds in order to solve this problem and get the correct answer. So let's get to work.
So now we have the following example. Let's say that we have this graph, and they're saying that one of the angles is equal to 2x, that's the angle ACB, and the other angle BCD is equal to 4x. They are asking specifically what is the measure of angle ACB. So in order for us to do this, we have to remember that these two angles that are shown are supplementary angles. So that means that they, if you add them together, they are going to be equal to 180. By solving this equation, we know that we just have to add like terms. So I can add 2x plus 4x, and that will be equal to 6x. And then I just have to use my inverse operations of dividing by 6 in order for me to be able to know that the x represents the 30, the angle 30. So remember that our angle ACB is equal to 2x. So now I have to multiply 2 times 30, and my answer will be 60. And that will be the angle ACB.
And now we got to the end of our 8th grade section. Today we learn about vertical angles, and we learned that they are congruent. In other words, they are the same. We also learned that we have supplementary angles, and these are angles that when added together, they are equal to 180 degrees. And then we learned that when we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, they form 4 corresponding angles. And that is the end of our section. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching video number 7, and remember that you can visit HISD at home for any extra resources that you might need in this new virtual setting. Also, make sure that you follow me on Twitter and Instagram in order to be able to see these videos at your own convenience. Okay? Have a nice week, and I'll see you on the next Math at Home.